baby, you my summer jam. I don't know if you can understand. No, you're the only one that I need. Like the air that I breathe. Baby, you mine. Say, baby, you mine. You mine.
And welcome to another episode of Projects Podcast. My name is CJ. I am not joined this week by Taylor, my usual co-host.
He is not.
He's off getting married. I'll be at his wedding, I guess, this weekend, but he is having all sorts of other responsibilities that are far more important than this. So this week...
Arguably.
True. We won't let Blonde know that. We talked too much crap about her already on this. Love you, Blonde. Instead, this week, I am joined by a man, another legend, a friend of mine for, god dang,
most of my years.
20 years almost now?
Yeah.
About 20 years?
Probably
Since
about 20 years.
Kindergarten, first grade-ish?
Yeah.
A man that I grew up playing many a sport with. A man who I once showed... how to swing a baseball bat in his house.
Definitely.
Because that's what I used to do, and golf clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And he took out a lamp on his first swing.
Yep. Led to a shattered lampshade. That didn't go very well.
Yeah.
But it was a good time.
Michael Melugin.
It's me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Big fan of the podcast?
And
We're
of
3 episodes
projects,
in.
just in general.
Yeah, projects in general.
People doing
That's what we're all
projects.
about.
I'm a big fan. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, very excited to have you here. We have many things to talk about. We'll first start off with who you are, what you do, what you got going on these days. I know of a wonderful little website that you're on these days. It's a beautiful blog with some YouTube content as well.
With a little bit of YouTube content
in the description as always. But Handwritten Kin, give us a little bit of information on that to start off before we get into everything else.
Yeah, well, my name's Michael Melugin, and I'm from Missoula, Montana, just like Chad here. And I attended the University of Montana and graduated in filmmaking. And since graduating, I don't know, I've been roaming around shooting various projects, and I made a web series and a documentary, and then spent a couple of years shooting reality television.
If you have seen
Beach
Hunters,
is that
what it's called? Yep, HGTV, everybody's favorite. It's one of my favorites.
Beach Hunters, Island Hunters, Log
Cabin
Cabin Living.
Hunters.
Log Cabin Living. That was a throwback. We were shooting that a couple of years ago.
I met the guy who used to own HGTV.
Really?
Scripps. Yeah,
Whoa,
Mr. Scripp.
Very nice.
Yeah, he was a big fan.
Is that actually his name, Mr. Scripp?
Yeah, Mr. Scripp.
Wow.
Yeah, he owns a place at the West Fork.
That's fantastic.
That's where that was like his main. I think he sadly passed away a few years ago. But he was loved Fire.
I wonder if that's what led to
the sale.
Because
for
Discovery
sure.
bought.
Yep, that's when Discovery went through. So
okay. Well, that would explain it.
Yeah, he loved forest like firefighters and that kind of stuff, and the work that they did. So he would allow, when I worked for the Forest Service, he allowed us to stay on his land, like out front of his house. And one portion of their house is actually where they shot a bunch of, unfortunately I was not on this fire, but they were shooting at the time in one huge section of their house a cookie special for the Food Network. And it's like apparently like a 2-tier like kitchen setup in this damn house. It's insane.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And
I
so
bet their kitchen is the size of my apartment.
Yeah, so they baked like hundreds of dozens of cookies for this special thing, and then they just brought them out to all the people working the fire, and they just got a bunch of free cookies.
That's a good situation.
Very disappointed I was not involved in that one, but a very nice man.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear. He ruffled a few feathers at my job when they made that sale. It complicated things a little bit.
100%. I definitely agree with that.
We bounce back. Yeah. Things happen.
Hey, anyways, sorry, getting off topic already.
That's all right.
Continue, please.
Yeah, and so spent almost 3 years shooting reality TV shows around the country. And nowadays I'm mostly, I guess you could call it working for myself. I guess you could call it unemployed. It's all a matter of preference.
Perspective.
Yeah, I prefer
the
former.
No.
I have jobs. But I operate a blog called Handwritten Kin, where I mostly write about film and literature and creative mental health, I would say. And I've been transitioning that into being a clothing and clothing brand also, where I'm selling shirts and stickers and merch aimed toward writers and artists of all kinds, I suppose, and people who like making things. And so that's kind of been my number one project lately, is getting this, still operating the blog and working on that here and there. But the last month or two, I've been slowly starting to get this clothing project off the ground. And
this is something I did not know about.
I don't think I've told you about it.
Yeah, you have not. And I'm kind of disappointed in you.
Well, it was going to come up, and I figured it would come up on the podcast.
I could have had a shirt already and be wearing it right now.
I know. Yeah. I tried to order you one in time, but my shipping situation is a little bit slow right now because of COVID, so I wasn't able to get one.
God dang it, Rona.
Couldn't get you one on time, but I will be sending you one at some point.
Ooh, I'm excited. I want to buy one.
But yeah, I've been starting to make t-shirts. This is one of the very first ones that I got. A little tester, and then been making stickers and drawing a lot more, getting back into drawing and designing products,
very good
which
artist
is a lot
here.
of fun.
Very good artist. Amazing artist.
Good enough. Thank you.
No, amazing.
I'm good enough to do some things. And so that's been fun because, I mean, still working on video projects frequently and writing a lot, but it's been a lot of fun to get back into drawing and apply that towards something. And I don't know, hopefully design some shirts and things that people might want to wear.
I'll wear them.
Yeah. And yeah, it's called Handwritten Kin. That was the name of my blog that I've been doing for, I think I've been doing that for like 3 years. I don't have like a ton of articles on there, but I've been doing
There's a lot of very good articles on there.
But there's a few I'm quite happy with, and I've been picking up steam on that a bit more in 2020, and now I'm transitioning and starting to evolve it into a brand that the blog will sort of fold into.
Yeah, have an all-encompassing creative brand.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
So that's what I've been up to for the most part lately.
I binged a lot of those articles when you first sent that over to me. Yeah, they were awesome.
Which one did you like?
Well, frankly, right now, the first place one has to be the fact that you called the Taika Waititi situation here.
Yeah, man.
The
Taika
transition over
conspiracy.
the Taika conspiracy comes true.
When he's directing Thor: Love and Thunder in a couple of years. I think I think it's all been orchestrated.
And now he's got the Star Wars stuff. Oh man, it is bonkers. And
Has he been given a Star Wars film, or is it?
Did you not hear about this? Did I not send this to you? You called this thing straight up. Did I not send that to you?
Did he actually get a film?
Yeah, so
because I know he's involved in The Mandalorian fairly heavily at this point.
So there is now, it came out a while ago, I mean, right before Corona. So for everybody's background, Michael writes an article basically stating that Taika got pushed for his latest film. He won the Oscar for...
He won Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit.
I applaud, mind you. I'll do a parentheses and say I'm a big Taika Waititi fan, and I was very excited that he won an Oscar. I think he deserved it after the last 10 years of his career. I think it was beautiful to see that. But
he has better films in the past that probably should have won as well. And so it wins this one. So Michael writes an article basically stating that, Disney may have had something to do with it. Disney pushed it forward.
Pulling the strings.
Yeah.
To get Taika this Oscar nom and eventual win.
That way he could have a bigger name. And that when they started pushing other things like Love and Thunder.
They got to build that clout, that Taika clout.
Other movies. Yeah, such as if he were to take over the Star Wars franchise.
Exactly.
That they would have Taika's name on it to be this big push forward.
When they inevitably come out with more Star Wars and Thor products, they can say, from Oscar-winning writer-director Taika Waititi. And people love that,
Everybody loves that. I mean, it just immediately puts it into a different category.
You're going to make
movie.
more money if the director is an Oscar winner.
Correct. And especially when he's a rock man in the Thor movies.
Yes, iconic.
So, yes, a few months after that, there was an article that came out that did state that he would be taking over the Star Wars franchise for a new trilogy. I thought I sent it to you, but yeah,
I must have just missed that.
Yeah, so I know it was like preliminary talks, so there was nothing really locked into place as of right then, but his name was the preliminary name of being like going forward. It was after episode 9, of course, was not well received.
Not by me, at
And-
least.
Yeah, right. I mean, by many people, I think that it was not well received.
I'm not going to speak for everyone, but it was not well received
It was
by me.
Yeah, by the general majority, I would say it was not a well-received movie. And this trilogy overall was kind of a bummer for a lot of people. So I think that
There
they
were
were
highs
looking
and
at
lows.
Yeah,
I would argue more lows than highs, but there were moments I really enjoyed in the trilogy.
I agree with you.
I'm still a fan of The Force Awakens. That hit me at the right moments, and I enjoyed that film. But I know
can't agree with you.
but I know I'm in the minority on that.
I couldn't get along with you on that one. That
That's all
movie,
right.
nothing happened. Nothing.
Well, I think that's the problem.
And it was just-
at the time it came out, I liked it because I felt like it was a neat little cute setup for what would turn into maybe a very interesting trilogy.
Oh no, but yeah,
and
no,
then
God,
I
no.
was just wrong.
Then let's just like they
And now
basically
you
took
go
episode
back
8
and-
and just threw it out. They just said no more. We don't want you anymore.
Exactly.
You are the ugly stepchild of this. We're tossing your ass out.
And so
Goodbye.
now when you go back and rewatch The Force Awakens, it's like, not a lot happens.
So
in that.
like the problem is that they just made it so disconnected from the other two at that point. Like I get what he was trying to do there. He's like, I'm trying to
just
break
totally
expectations.
restart, yeah.
But man, maybe if that was episode 7, maybe a little different situation. But when you kill off like basically all your main characters by this point, except the one where the actress sadly is already dead,
And Han is just
in
old.
trouble.
It looks like he's dead.
True.
I mean, he might as well be dead in those
It's
movies.
it's just a
Yeah. But this is brilliant news if they're giving
Yeah,
the,
so
giving the
apparently
keys
that's
to
the
Taika. I
direction
would
that
argue
they're-
that's a very smart decision.
I agree. I think that that's the direction that they're going to look for. I think that they want to get back to the zany environment of it all.
I just think they're reading the writing on the wall that everything Taika has touched in the last 5 years has
Yeah.
just been a crowd favorite, I would say. I mean, I'm
Be
definitely...
interesting if they gave Taika the Fantastic Four at this point, though.
Oh my god, it would just be so much better. And like I'm
That's
biased,
another
I
train
think.
wreck movie.
Just I'm a little. Oh my goodness.
Did you watch that thing?
I saw it. I don't even know if I could say I watched it because I didn't even feel like it was worth watching. But my eyes were looking at it. Yes.
Yikes.
That was trash. But you know, I'm a little biased toward Taika just because I find him very funny. Like
Yeah.
honestly, that sense of humor is just it really works on me. And I was so curious how that was going to transition from his earlier work when he took on Thor. And it really worked. I mean, I think Taika's work on that film is a major reason why Thor became such a popular character in the last
Yes.
like in
it's not even close.
Infinity War and Endgame. Obviously, there's tons of great things about those
Yeah.
films and great performances, and obviously Iron Man is iconic, and as is Captain America. But I would say from like a just crowd enjoyment perspective, I feel like Thor was really anchoring those movies in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but it was because of that one. The first 2 Thor movies were they
Yeah.
tried to make him seem like this rough and tough guy throughout, and
Yeah.
that does not work in this kind of a world in the grand scheme of things. Have
Right.
you gone back and watched the first Thor at all?
I just haven't.
It's
I just have no
funky,
desire.
man.
I have
It
no
just
desire.
the character that he was then till now are just like two completely different
Exactly.
characters. And it's
The
like they
tone is so
transitioned it.
different.
In this case, they transitioned him in an actual great way that made him a better
They
character.
figured it out. Yeah.
They did some weird things with his character for it. He was way too serious throughout. It was almost
I
like
think
they
that
were
was the
trying
thing. He
to
was
point
so
him towards like a
earnest in those first couple.
Superman
Right.
more type of a role than the zany, Asgardian.
Where now his persona is more the too cool for school. Like I'm hot and I know it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an okay way to have taken it because he is hot and smart and
I'd say that
the
James
strongest
Gunn,
Avenger.
I'd say that James Gunn had a good push on that though as well, because James Gunn I think introduced the zany in a perfect
I would
way
agree.
into this universe with Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think allowed them. I think that allowed them to be like, okay, let's go get Taika to come over here, and I think that he could do something crazy and then just let him have free creative control.
That's a really
Just
good point.
let him go.
I'd say Guardians and the Star-Lord character really paved the
Yes.
way for what Taika ended up doing with,
Which is why I'm
with
very
Thor.
excited that now those two groups
As
smash them
Guardians of
together.
the Galaxy,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. As Guardians of the Galaxy, let's see it.
I'm excited for it.
But yeah, if he takes on Star Wars, I think that would be maybe the smartest thing
I
the
just hope
Star
that they
Wars
go in a
franchise has ever done.
Yeah, I just want them to break from the current timeline. Like,
Put
go
your
somewhere
chips
else.
on
Go do something
Taika.
else.
Put your chips on Taika. That's what I would do, because
Yeah.
he's just
I think that
undoubtedly
as
going to write a funnier
him,
and better script than anything they've seen in the last 10 years.
And I'm hoping that Disney allows him to have the freedom that they didn't give Phil Lord and
Chris Miller.
yes,
Is that right? Is it Chris? Something Miller.
Something whatever. Phil Lord's the one that always just comes first on the list, and I usually just stop that. So, anyways, Phil Lord and his buddy, who made a bunch of great movies such as the Lego Movie.
The Lego Movie.
Oh, so good.
Still holds up.
I wish that they would have been given the freedom that they wanted to for that Han Solo film. I've heard the Han Solo film was great. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't speak
am a
to
fan
it at
of
all.
it. That's another really
couple other people.
Yeah, classic example of Star Wars films being pretty divisive, and I feel like some people really loved Solo, and some people just couldn't even be bothered by it, and that's fine. But on the whole, I thought it was pretty good. There's some unreasonably over the top and cheesy moments.
That's kind of Star Wars, though.
But that's just, that's what you're signing up for when you go to a Star Wars movie. For the most part, I thought that movie was pretty cool, and there were some pretty good performances in it for the most part. But I agree, that was just so awkward the way that got handled with Miller and Lord being in control and then getting thrown over to Ron Howard, and Ron Howard picks it up and he's like, all right, I guess I'll
just finish this.
Deal with this.
Yeah. Well, you see that quite often, though, nowadays in certain movies where just like the big studio doesn't like how one little thing's going on the film, or doesn't like a direction that's specifically going, maybe because they don't think it's going to sell. Sometimes I think it might be for the better, but other times it may just be that they don't think that it's going to sell enough merchandise after the fact with decisions that you're making with characters. So you get tossed off. And
that's just not a smart way to conduct yourself. And you're not going to end up with good stories if you.
No, and I think that's what it is.
That.
I think that it kind of puts a stranglehold on the whole process. And I think that you see that a lot now with video games as well, because we have, like, I mean, you're not a huge video game guy,
but I appreciate them.
Yeah, exactly. And so video games have always been this long-standing place of just the weird and the zany. Like, you can do anything within a video game world, so why not?
Yeah.
It's kind of like an animated film, right? Like, you can do whatever you want within that creative space because you don't have to worry about realism.
Yeah.
And video games have just been continuously pushing, though, towards more realism and more how can we capitalize the most off this in terms of week-to-week merchandise and or week-to-week microtransactions.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of battle royale games and stuff like that, which are great. They're fantastic games, but it feels like it's hampering that creative control a little bit due to these things where it's all about how much money can we make to keep this stuff going. Mostly, I mean, for a couple different reasons, right? Like you want to the companies want to capitalize on the money and how much they can bring in from this. But also, this stuff is getting expensive.
It is.
Like, when you see how much freaking Endgame cost,
it's expensive to enjoy things.
Crap, yeah.
It's expensive to make things, but... Whoops.
Don't worry, we've done worse on this podcast.
I don't know, man. It's Endgame and those films are a good example of... I feel like you're seeing the money on the screen for the most part, but I just continually come back to... Like, you just don't have to spend that much money to make a good thing. And
I agree.
But sometimes you do. Sometimes you do.
I like seeing big flashy things on screen and things explode. Flashy things.
It's like a weird balance as a consumer, I think, because, on one hand, I don't believe that to make something beautiful or to make quality art, you shouldn't have to have an ungodly amount of money going into it.
Right.
But on the flip side,
it's great to see Doctor Strange where all the buildings are collapsing on themselves. That's pretty dope.
It's cool to see epic things. And so I see the benefit, but
I also see it from their perspective too. Like, theaters across the globe, sales continually dip. Prices continue to go up just that little bit to try to compensate for that.
Popcorn is $98.95 nowadays.
Exactly. If you're going to the movie and like that's your one outing for the month.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm saving up for like 3 months of rent to get that popcorn and Coke.
To get that pie, no joke.
It's insane, man.
It's nuts.
And I'll do it. I do it.
Yeah.
Because it tastes good.
Because it's delicious. And when I'm watching a movie,
I like
experience. Being able to eat a whole large popcorn myself because I'm a fat ass.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I want my mouth to feel all weird and like over salted by the end of the movie.
Exactly.
Part of the experience.
And I get it. Like, you have that front. So when you're going to a movie, you want it to be something epic that you can't see on your own television screen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
what are you going to go watch? Are you going to go watch, the latest indie movie that's coming out to that theater? Or are you going to go see the superhero film? Well, I mean, you're a different
Depends
case.
on who you're talking to. I'm going to go see both.
Both, but I'm just saying the general consumer.
Yeah. In general, you're absolutely right.
Give me explodey bits.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked about Tenet on this podcast yet?
No, no. Actually, I don't think we have. I'm very excited for Tenet.
Oh my goodness.
And that's the interesting one, because you see a bunch of movies pushing back, waiting to see what Tenet's going to do right now. I mean, mostly because of Corona, and we don't know when theaters are going to be able to open back up. But I mean, it seems like a lot of movies are playing off of Tenet. Mulan, which is a huge, big blockbuster movie, but they're waiting for Tenet. Like, they're trying to give Tenet breathing room because they know it's going to.
It keeps going back and forth, because for a minute I think they were saying when Tenet. I think it was originally scheduled for July 24th. Does that sound right?
Something like
the
that.
The 24th, and then I think it got pushed back 1 week to July 31st, which made zero sense, because what is 1 week going to do in the grand scheme of all of this? That makes zero difference. So that was a cute little. It
was a nice ploy, nice try.
Yeah, they're just to make it look like they're doing something.
Keep interest in the movie.
And at that point, I believe when it moved that first week, they were originally saying that Mulan was going to stick and stay at that July 24th spot, I believe. And,
I'm wondering though if that was just a ploy to get
and all
Mulan
of a sudden
back
Mulan is going to be the movie opening theaters, and now I don't think that's the case, and Mulan is also pushing, and now it's just a fun little race
to the bottom.
It's like a race to the bottom to see which film is going to open with the least butts and seats, and I just hope it's not Tenet, because Tenet deserves butts.
Yeah, that movie deserves to make money. I mean, I'm very excited for that movie. It's getting back to what Chris and Ben do best, I think, which are those just off concept, just over the top type movies. Inception, Memento, like getting back into that realm. Dunkirk was fine. It's a
great movie. Yeah, it's just
not what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's not necessarily what I want from Christopher Nolan and his team, but just in the sense that it's based on existing property. But that, I think Dunkirk's a very good movie. Yeah, extremely good.
It's great. It's just not what I was looking for. I'm wondering if that was a passion project for Nolan.
I think
that's why he took that, because I think that his brother, who is the main principal writer on a lot of these films with him, of course, but he's the main principal writer. I think he was off doing Westworld at the time.
Yeah,
when Dunkirk was coming out.
That's exactly right. I want to see Tenet first and foremost, just because I'm a fan, big Christopher Nolan fan, and have been looking forward to that movie for a year or so since we found out about it.
Yeah, about a year. Yeah, Super Bowl. Well, no, it hasn't even been that long, because
I think I had heard
we heard about it about a year ago, but the first trailer was Super Bowl, right?
Yes, yeah. But much more importantly than just me selfishly wanting to see a good movie, I think it's very important for Tenet to be successful and to make its money back, which I think is the entire question with this theater release, and whether it'll get a proper theater release, because that was an almost $200 million movie that needs to make its money back. And I think that's a very important concept going forward in the Hollywood landscape, because they are not making $200 million original IP projects
anymore.
Almost at all. Like it's like Nolan and Tarantino and Damien Chazelle, and I'm sure there's a handful of other directors, but I would say less than 10, maybe less than 5 directors that Hollywood is trusting to shoot basically whatever they want in terms of intellectual property and like new ideas, not based on anything above like $100 million movie. Like, they're not risking it on original content. And I think the entire concept of original movies, this is a little grandiose to put it like that, but I think Nolan is one of the torchbearers when it comes to original films, and for the last 15 years he really has been one of the main guys who is still able to get a high concept original idea made. Yeah. And that's important, because we need original stories.
I also think it puts him in, I think Christopher Nolan's also been a huge proponent of theaters for ever. And so I think that he has a little bit on his shoulders on that front too, because who knows? I mean, AMC's already come out and said that bankruptcy is most likely going to happen for them.
Seems like it.
Which probably isn't a bad call for them. They can try to restart over. Like they can try to clear some of their debt maybe, but it's going to close down a ton of theaters.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're going to have to shut down a lot before they can reopen after the bankruptcy. So what markets are going to have it? What's the time frames going to be for movies within theaters? What's the price going to look like for movies when you're going back?
Have you heard any of those rumors that for a while, I haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks, but Amazon was talking about buying AMC?
That would be interesting.
I thought that was interesting because I could see that going one of a couple of directions. It could lead toward Amazon just shutting down pretty much all of the theaters, because I think the main reason they would want to buy a theater chain is to have their own venue to show their Amazon originals, because, you know, for Oscar qualifications every year except for COVID season, you know, you have to show a movie in a certain amount of theaters. And so I think they were kind of gunning to have their own theaters in the main cities to qualify their Amazon originals for the Oscars.
Yeah.
But now that rule is kind of off the table for, at least for this coming Oscar cycle. They changed the rules for this year.
Okay.
In terms of theater qualifications. But I'm sure they'll be back. And so Amazon wants their theaters to show their originals. But also the other way, the best case scenario is that Amazon has so much money that they can afford to just keep theaters open.
But you also have to consider the supply chains that they already have in place. If Amazon, that's an intriguing thing. Amazon taking over is a terrifying thing because you're going to be tracked in every
I'm not necessarily advocating for Amazon taking over the theaters. I just like the hypothetical that they have enough money they might actually keep theaters open.
But not only that, they could keep theaters open. Everything would run through Amazon Prime.
Yes.
So basically you would have access. They would open it up to where they'd be making a little bit of money on the back end, to where you could probably watch theater movies at home that they struck up deals with.
Possibly.
Or you'd have passes within your Amazon Prime account. You would probably get discounts to movies. They have the supply chains already in place for food and that kind of stuff. So all that would get passed around. So all those prices you could see dip down, because they're actually going to be making their money in other places, such as Amazon Prime accounts, because you would just sign up for an Amazon Prime account for $120 a year, because you're going to get all these other perks on top of seeing these movies. Yeah, that would be an intriguing one. I have not heard that, but
that headline just really caught my attention.
As crappy as it sounds, that makes sense.
It makes sense. I don't know for sure if I'm sold on the idea, because Amazon scares me. But
they just own so much
if
already.
It leads to movie theaters staying open and us, being able to keep the theaters that a handful of us still love, I think that could be a really good thing. So I'm just curious to see what comes of that, because AMC seems to be dying, and if someone was able to come in and save the day and still let me see Tenet in theaters, I would be thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure. It's already worked. Because they've already done that in a couple other places. Amazon bought out Whole Foods. They now own a portion of, I think, Rite Aid.
Really?
And, he's also made other weird purchases. He bought, what was it? Which newspaper was it? Gosh. He owns a newspaper out in, and I don't remember which one off the top of my head, but he just bought them out.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, at that point, the dude's worth almost $1 trillion, so it's
just inconceivable.
Yeah.
Inconceivable amount of money.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about that.
I don't know. I'm just hoping theaters stay open. I'm hoping I get to see Tenet in a theater. And
I'm hoping I get to see Dune in a theater in December.
Big one.
I'm gonna cry tears that the people on Arrakis would love to drink if Dune doesn't come out on time.
Yeah. Movies are just in a weird place right now. It's just going to depend on these next few months and what comes of all of it. So with the virus and everything.
Absolutely. So it's all
weird world that we live in.
It has to be hard on the artists and the thousands of people that are working on movies, and first and foremost,
or can't work on movies.
Well, the amount of filmmakers that are out of work right now because they can't shoot anything during this, and so.
I think The Witcher just started back up production, so a couple big productions are starting up. But
I'm sure they're able to here and there. It depends on where you're shooting. I mean, go shoot a movie in Switzerland. That's probably the move. But Switzerland, Sweden, which one is the
I don't
one
know. Are they letting people in there?
one of those two must be Sweden. One of them,
One of the S's.
I don't know if you would have heard about that, but their strategy to COVID is they didn't shut down anything and they just kind of let it roll, and it came through, and I think like 70% of their population got it, and then they healed like 69% of that or whatever. I'm not a numbers man, but yeah, and they saved most people, and then by the end already, like pretty much their whole country is immune to it. So that was a bold play they made, but it seems to have worked out for them. And
I know
so
that
now
was
they don't
Great
really have to
Britain's
work
plan.
about it.
That was Great Britain's plan in the beginning. I think they went back on it, but I know their prime minister or whatever came out and was just like, yeah, we're just letting it roll.
Yeah.
And I think that they backtracked on that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
started doing lockdowns.
It's a
scary, tough call.
That's a high risk, high reward scenario. So I understand countries not taking that high risk.
Yeah.
But
bold strategy.
But it paid off for them, Cotton.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that damn movie.
Dodgeball references.
Dodgeball's the best movie.
Yep.
Transitioning off of Corona.
The last one I was going to say is I'm waiting for the Wes Anderson movie. Also, I'm also very excited to see if or when that ever comes out.
Up on it?
Yeah. Well, it was supposed to come out July 17th, and I think they rescheduled it for like October or November. I think it's got a November slate right now, but the last I heard is they weren't even quite sure if that was going to hold up, and I just hope that doesn't go all the way until like next summer, because I just want to see these good movies that some of our best artists have been working on.
I want to see Soul from Pixar.
I want to see Soul. Yeah, another good example. So good. Yeah.
It is, yeah. We'll just wait it out, see how it all plays out. Eventually everything will transition back and hopefully is okay. But
COVID's been a very interesting time, I think, to see the way that artists and creative people have responded, because obviously it has impacted so many people, you know, film just being one example, them not being able to shoot almost anything right now.
Right.
But then on the flip side of that, so many people are staying home and having time given to them that it seems, well, not only to watch and consume. I mean, that's one end of things, but I also think a lot of cool art has been created over the last 2 or 3 months, because people have been given this opportunity to stay home and be trapped with their thoughts and trapped with whatever their canvas is, and to make some cool stuff. And I don't know, at least in my experience on the internet in the last month or so, it seems just like a lot of cool stuff is being made right now.
Popping up.
Yeah,
I'm about it.
So I do appreciate the situation for that. Giving people the opportunity to make things and have more time to make things, but I wish it wasn't under these circumstances.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Obviously.
It's a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Transitioning. With coronavirus still in mind, you're one of my only friends who actually still somewhat actively follows baseball.
I do.
And I've been wanting to talk to somebody about this whole baseball scenario that's been occurring, and how Rob Manfred is just the worst commissioner of all time. But let's get into it. Because I don't know how much you've heard.
Maybe go ahead and lay the groundwork for me, because I do follow baseball, but passively.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about, we'll bypass the whole Houston Astros finagling a little bit.
We can yell about it at some point, but it's not that important.
Yeah, that's kind of in the past by this point with how many other things have occurred. The main thing for me that I'm intrigued to see is the whole negotiation and your thoughts on all of it. The negotiation between the players and the owners for actually getting this season started back up. I don't know how much you've heard about this, but
only a little bit.
So to lay the groundwork here, every other sport has seemingly figured this out. Every other sport has figured out a time frame to come back. Now, some of those have been pushed around just because Corona's, exploded again in some areas. But every other sport has managed to kumbaya together and figure this out and get it back.
The NBA is coming back July 31st. Does that sound right?
Supposed to be. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah. Supposedly.
They keep saying that they're going to start back up again in Orlando. I don't know if I buy it. We'll see.
I'm not sure.
The MLB, which is a sport that already a lot of people are
diminishing
not the
numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it still gets decent numbers, but it's definitely diminishing year over year. So it's like, okay, let's try to get this thing figured out so that we can keep our numbers in place. No. Instead, what we got going on is we have two different sides of the puzzle that are not talking to each other, really, or weren't. Now they seemingly think that they have it figured out, but now there's more crap going on.
Right.
The players are saying that they want 100% prorated pay. So basically what that means is, say it's an 82 game season, what they're going to get is their full salary over the course of that 82 games.
Right.
Which was negotiated in a previous, and that's not like if you're making $28 million, you can get $28 million. Like over 82 games, half the season or whatever, you're going to get like half your money at 100% rate over the course of that return.
Yeah. Interesting.
The owners don't want that. They are basically, they offered first up 60%. So, or 50%, something like that. 60 or I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like 60% or something like that. I have the numbers in my head. So basically how it turned out, because they also were going to split the sales of the year, because nobody's gonna be able to go to the games. Yeah. So there's gonna be merchandise and that kind of stuff. They're gonna have to
either way,
split that 50.
The first question is whether they're going to play baseball. The second question is anybody gonna go watch them play baseball?
Yeah, nobody's gonna be able to go to the games. They're gonna have to lock those down. So the owners, to try to recoup costs for the player salaries and all that and the loss in that, they were gonna try to split, I think it was like merchandise 50-50, which usually is a different split. Right. So basically what it turned out is, if a person in the MLB, and this is where, because you hear those numbers, you're like, well, they're MLB players, right? They make a ton of money. Just go play the dang sport.
Yeah. Go play the sport that supposedly you love.
Exactly. But then you hear numbers
crazy
like
concept.
You hear the numbers about like this, and it kind of made me step back and shift over and be like, man, maybe they should get 100% of their pay. Somebody that makes them, let's say your salary in the MLB was $1 million this year.
Right.
So based on the initial proposal, now things change. There are a couple other proposals we can talk about. Based on the initial proposal, you immediately cut that in half. So you get $500,000. Mm-hmm. Then on top of that, you're going to cut another half off of that, basically, for everything else that's going on, for merchandising that's cut and all that kind of stuff. So you're down to like $250,000. Mm-hmm. Then you're still in the highest tax bracket. Cut that in half again. So now all of a sudden, instead of making what you would normally do on a year after taxes, let's say you make $500,000 of your $1 million because you're in the highest tax bracket. So just for blanket numbers, even though it doesn't really work out that way, you just take 50%. So now all of a sudden that person is down to like $120,000 is what they're making this year compared to that higher amount. So then you look at somebody else's salary that's making like $40 million, you start subtracting that off, and they're all of a sudden getting paid nothing. And if their arm blows out this year, bye. Yeah, like that kind of thing. That's a very good point. So that's just the crazy thing. So I don't know how I feel about it. I don't like since then there have been proposals going back and forth, but neither one of them seems to read the proposal. They just say, fuck it. We're not reading this. We're just going to send our proposal over the wall. And if you guys, that's the one that we want. And they've just been doing that back and forth. So nobody's been reading each other's proposal for months. Finally, the players just say, just tell us when and where and we'll show up and play. That is literally their answer. Okay. And the owners are like, well, I don't know about this. And they kept delaying days and days. And the players just kept yelling, just tell us where to play. We'll show up to spring training in 2 days. Let's just get this damn thing done and get playing. Right. And this is when the corona numbers were really starting to drop off. So it was like, it's time now before other sports come back. We should probably try to get some people invested in our sport and get some TV time. So
that's a good point. Get baseball on TV, and baseball it's the only thing that's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Instead, everybody's stuck watching terrible Korean baseball, and I have not watched a single game of that. So I shouldn't say that. Right now? Nothing.
The country was watching The Last Dance, and since then I haven't even heard. Are people even watching anything?
Yeah, I don't know. We went from Joe Exotic to The Last Dance, so I don't know.
Which were both good, but you know, what are we to do now?
Yeah. So
There's probably a Bachelor of some sort.
Probably. I don't know.
There's usually some sort of Bachelor-oriented.
I've seen a
show going
troubling trend on TV right now because Case and I we have HGTV running fairly often,
Nice.
just for the heck of it.
Yeah, it's good ambiance.
They have like 3 new shows coming out that are all like, you're locked down with coronavirus, we'll show you how to fix your house. And they like ship kids of stuff around, and so the people in their house are like doing repairs in their house while the professionals like teaching them like how to do it. And there's like 2 or 3 shows of this now, and it's like, well,
is that a great idea or
No.
a terrible idea? I can't
well,
really
see-
tell off first description.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if people are going to watch it for one thing, but also at the same time, like the professional that's getting paid is like, this is the easiest shit on planet Earth.
Oh, of course.
While is the people that are actually doing all the work and making the show, are they getting paid?
Based on my experience in the film world and the television world, I'm betting those homeowners
No.
aren't actually doing the work.
Well,
They just are on camera, but what do I know? I
well,
could be
what do you-
totally wrong.
exactly. You
It
don't
depends on
know.
the show.
Yeah.
Depends on different shows or function differently, but I would doubt that they are doing all of that work.
Oh, no. And I think a lot of these things are more like, hey, we're going to restore this one thing, or we're going to clean up this
Right.
one room and like create hangers things and stuff to put crap on. I don't know.
I don't know how I feel
haven't
about this
watched it.
because that's kind of a cool idea to
yeah.
capitalize on the situation and make a show
very quickly
about home improvement while you're trapped at home. But it also just feels like a cheap grab by HGTV.
Yeah. just a complete soulless grab at this
Yeah.
one. But I appreciate
But what
that.
are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, you got to make content.
Yeah,
So
I would say people are
You
more
could-
likely to watch that than a lot of other stuff right now.
yeah, you can only run so many reruns of Property Brothers before people
my God.
get tired of it.
Property Brothers is always playing when I go to my gym, and I don't understand why. I don't know if it's just
They have like 5 shows.
I can't tell if it's a coincidence and I go to the
No.
gym at the same time without realizing it, or if it's just on all day.
They have like 5 or 6 shows.
Because I feel like I go to the gym at different hours of the day, and it's just always Property Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand because they have 100 other shows.
No, they have
play
like the
something else.
Property Brothers have like 6 shows on that channel.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm seeing 6 shows. It's just
Yeah.
those same dudes.
Dude, they have so much bullshit going on that channel.
Oh,
they
man.
have a show just like your traditional, like, hey, we just bought this new house, we're gonna fix it up for you, you guys are gonna move into it. Then they have another show that's like, well, do you guys wanna, like, it's kind of like, you guys want to find a new house, but I think we can fix up yours instead. So then they're gonna do that. Then there's just the Forever Dream Home show,
Right.
where they just go into the person's house and just fix everything up on their own. Then they have another one that's now where celebrities pay to have all their friends' houses renovated, or family members.
Cool.
And then I think there's like
Useful.
I
Quality
think
content.
that there is one more. So there's like, they have like 5 shows on there. It's ridiculous.
That's great. They got a monopoly.
They're making a lot of
Those 2
money.
guys, just let them go. You
Yeah.
know? Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to tear them down. I'm just.
Chip and Joanna got their own channel, so
They
there's
did,
that.
yeah. They're
But
on
anyways.
they're on the big come up.
Yeah. Anyways, way off topic.
When I worked on HGTV shows for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
you would not believe the amount of times I've told someone that, and the first thing they do, they go, "Do you know Chip and Joanna?"
Oh my
And I
God.
was like, "No, I don't."
I think we talked about Chip and
I work
Joanna
on
the
other
last
shows. I'm
podcast, too.
sorry. I'm
they
sorry.
keep sneaking in here.
But everyone just wants to know if I know Chip and Joanna. And
I do love
once or
them.
twice I've been like, yeah, I do. And then I just make up things about them. I remember one time I was talking to someone, I was like, yeah, Chip, he just really likes chocolate chip cookies. And
Oh
this person,
my
I just had, it was
God.
like a middle-aged woman. And I just had her go, and I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry. That's not true at all.
Chip and Joanna keep sneaking on here. I think I talked about them last one.
You would have thought
last
she would have
episode.
picked up on the fact that I was just trying to sneak the word chip into different things.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah, no.
It's so good.
But
Anyways.
we were talking about baseball, I
Baseball.
believe.
Baseball.
Yeah.
So the players are just like, tell us when and where. The owners keep waiting out for a few more days, and then all of a sudden they come out with this 60-game schedule that the players are like, fine, whatever, we agreed
Sure.
to it. We'll figure this out in labor negotiations next year, because apparently it's looking like it's going to head for a lockout, which will basically end baseball. So anyways, I was
I
expecting
hope
to get
not.
at least one more year.
You would think.
Then
They'll make it back.
the illustrious commissioner who completely botched the Astro situation, who completely botched just several press conferences around that time trying to keep people calm, including just, like, I get it, it kind of is, but he just called the World Series trophy a piece of metal, which it's like, okay,
Oh, that's
I get it,
cool
but at the
move.
same time, you are the commissioner of this game. Maybe you
Yeah.
should think a little bit higher of it.
Have some respect.
Yeah. So
Oh man.
he did that, and now he came out in an interview. Well, first off, during the course of this whole talks too, he's been like, yeah, we're definitely going to have baseball back. And then 2 days later, he's like, I think baseball's done. I don't think we're playing this year. It's like, well, why don't you just shut the hell up and not say anything until you know for sure? So then right after
Sounds like
this,
Trump with COVID. Yeah.
fair enough.
Move on.
Yeah. So after that point, you've got where he came out and talked about the 60-day thing or 60-game season. He goes, "Oh yeah, that was the plan all along. The owners just were pushing that. We just actually refused to look at any other proposals and just waited out until that was the only reasonable amount."
Right.
Why would you say that?
He's just making things up as he goes.
He's the commissioner.
That word, that's just a word. That guy doesn't know what he's doing at all.
My God.
Yeah, I don't know. So in the end, when is this 60 games supposed to start?
I don't know. I still haven't figured out
Okay, 'cause
when the actual date is.
Okay, good. Because I came into this podcast like, I'm going to be honest, I still don't even know when they're expecting to do this. I think it's because they don't know.
I was hoping you had more information.
No, I haven't
because
been
I
able
have
to
no
see
idea when
anything.
baseball's supposed to come back. And I am excited because I'm supposed to have a good team this year.
Finally.
We took Mookie Betts from your team.
Oh, yeah.
Well, are you a Tampa
about-
Bay fan now, or are you a Red Sox fan?
I'm a
still?
soft Red Sox fan. I'm a Red Sox fan in the sense that I was a Red Sox fan when I was a kid, because I'm from Montana and don't have a team.
You can choose whoever you want.
And
That's what I
so,
always tell people.
yeah. So I would say I'm a Red Sox fan, but not in any sort of like super legitimate way, other than the fact that I was a fan growing up. I chose to be a Red Sox fan arbitrarily growing up, and most people would assume that I chose them because they won a couple of World Series. I started rooting for them a couple of years before the famous World Series 2004 when they finally won one.
Yeah,
I think it was 2004. No, it was not because of that. I started being a Red Sox fan only because my dad is a Yankees fan, and I just wanted things to be spicy at home. I just wanted to
keep things interesting.
I just wanted to have some good old arguments with my father when I was growing up and keep things interesting. And so that's why I started being a Red Sox fan. And then they started winning things, and
then it was even better in the household.
and then it was just better. It was like, all right, I put my chips on the right horse, I guess. Whereas my dad did not.
So I stole a couple of your players. Mookie Betts now plays for me.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
David Price
That's a good
plays for
pickup.
me.
You guys got David Price?
Yeah, we took them both.
I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't heard about David Price. That's cool.
He's not going to play this year though.
Okay.
A bunch of players.
Is anybody?
A bunch. Yeah, well, that's the thing. So that's the other thing that's coming. So I have no idea when the season's supposed to come back, and I think Corona's thrown another wrench into that. And thing two is a bunch of like in the agreement that was put into place, players have the ability to just opt out if they feel like they
are getting swindled.
Well, not only that, but I think that just like, hey, if you live with like, if some of your family members are like high risk or anything like that for coronavirus, then they just decided to give them the opt out. So a bunch of players are already several high profile players like a David Price, something like that, have been opting to just
gonna take a knee
say
for a
no.
year.
Yeah, they're just gonna sit it out.
That's
Especially
probably
since
smart.
it's only 60 games.
Probably smart.
At this point
in a season that in the grand scheme of baseball history is basically just not going to exist anyway.
Yeah.
You might as well just not risk your health and not play.
Yeah,
Kind of
so
makes sense.
I'm hoping that this whole thing, why I want to have you on actually talk, is not about the actual baseball season. I just want to get your opinion on that. And then also thing two is, how does baseball fix itself?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Because I have had this conversation with several people, some people that are baseball purists and some people that are not, and I get very differing opinions. I'll lay out the land of what I think should happen.
All right.
I believe baseball should shorten its season to like 110 games. 120
maybe
games.
even less than that.
I
I think that's a separate conversation, but I think you're already on the right right road.
I get why people still want several games just because of stats and all that kind of crap.
For sure.
Shorten that thing up. Also, the other thing why I still wanted 110 games, take these games and put them to 7 innings. Cut 2 innings out.
It makes sense, man.
And then you could have double headers.
It's just the hardest. I'm already getting fired up about this because I love baseball. And people who love baseball. And it doesn't make any sense to change the game just because people are babies and don't have the attention for it. And it's all okay. Like, in my experience, I have never been someone who will like force baseball upon anyone. I don't think I've ever been like, you should like baseball. Like, I get it. I get why people don't love baseball.
Yeah.
But for the people that do like baseball, it's almost like a religion. It's like,
it really is.
It's like baseball is like, maybe not a religion. It's just like the world's best inside joke where like,
it really is.
You have to understand it, but if you do, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. And I think that it's people that love it's the statistics around it that really drive people into the sport. When you know all that information, like it just pulls people in.
It just makes me sad to think that, there's X percentage of humans who get the inside joke, who understand why baseball is amazing. And then we're going to cater to the other percentage who don't like, and change the game for the people who don't like it as opposed to the people who do get it. That just seems sort of like an injustice, but at the same time, we don't want to see the sport die. The people who get the inside joke, they don't want the joke to die.
Yeah.
And so maybe they have to amend the joke, and I think that's probably okay. And I do, off the top of my head, I think 7 innings would probably be probably the easiest way to go about it. Just make it shorter and just like, because I think that's the big thing, just from a reputation standpoint, everyone and their mother thinks baseball is just long. It's long. It's long and boring, and they're not wrong. Yeah, and they're not wrong. If you can get those games down to
2.5,
two or 2.5 hours, like 2.5 hours, make it a little more similar to going to a basketball game. Yeah, or a football game. How long is a football game? Like 3 hours?
Great question.
2.5, 3 hours? I don't know.
Sounds great.
Sure.
It's commercials break everything these days, baseball. But yeah.
Yeah, with commercials, it's a little different. But you could do 7 innings, and I like what you're saying about a shorter season with less games. I think that would just make sense. And, that's part of why the NFL is so successful. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons why the NFL is successful, but one of them might be the fact that the games are like a novelty because each team only has 16 games a season, and so you have to pay attention. Every single game matters. Whereas, and that's the beauty. Like I said, I know how baseball works. The beauty and the curse. That's the beautiful thing about baseball is that that's sort of why it's designed that way. Is every single game shouldn't have to matter. Like if the best hitter in the entire league strikes out 3 times in a night, it doesn't matter that much because, the next night he's going to hit 2 home runs, and that's the nature of the game. You just hope you're at that game. Whereas, if baseball, it's such a fickle game, and like things can happen and like the best player can have an off night or whatever. Like, if baseball was 16, could you imagine baseball with 16 games in the season? That'd be insane. It wouldn't it wouldn't work. No. But you could chop that down to like 100 games and just make it a little bit more of a novelty in the way that football or even basketball at 82 functions similarly to where it really feels like each game has an impact, and that 3-game lead in the AL East, like that's a very big deal, and everything really matters from day one of the season. Right.
And I agree with you. Like I get it. Like I understand from the purist perspective because I mean there's so many things. Baseball is built around statistics. Like people, like the day in day out game, nobody cares about. Like it doesn't matter.
I love the idea of caring about it.
Yeah, but nobody.
I love baseball, and I can't. Yeah, I can't keep up with it.
Like baseball is the only game where you can have a 30-game slump, and it's just like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, like you're cool.
You can find it in the second half of the season. It.
Like they freaking allowed Chris Davis to keep playing after he went 0 for 65, and they're just like, yeah, he'll find it eventually. It's like, oh, okay, so. I get it from that perspective. Like, and also, especially since like baseball is built around statistics and records. That's it. Everybody, whenever you speak about baseball, inevitably
And
you
hot
end up
dogs.
on hot dogs,
Built around
statistics,
hot dogs.
records. Those are the three. And so when you shorten a season, when you chop endings off games, I get it. Like, it's going to break all the statistics.
Yeah.
You shorten a season, there's no way in hell anybody touches a home run record.
No.
There's no way anybody touches a hitting
you would be
record.
changing the game. You would be changing the entire.
So now you have like
you would
basically
almost have
two,
to start over.
Yeah.
The record books.
You'd have two record books basically going for the two different time periods.
Yeah.
They've already done that before. It's called the dead ball and the live ball era, but whatever. So
you could do it.
I understand where they're coming from.
To that point, you could do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure they're. What would you call it though? You're saying the dead ball and the live ball era. It would be more like
The watchable.
the internet era, or
just
the consumable era.
Something. I understand where people are coming from, and I get it. It's just at some point something has to change because the numbers are dwindling. Revenues are down. Like, just interest overall is down a little bit because,
and I think just
as you've seen other games become more in baseball has too, don't get me wrong, but everybody just perceives baseball to be a stagnant sport, which I don't really see that. Anyways, it's more stagnant. It's more explosive 1-to-1, and there's a lot of downtime,
right,
compared to where you're seeing a lot of movement and all that from, in sports like the NFL and the NBA, where those two sports across the board, and baseball as well there's a lot more athletic people in baseball, but every sport right now, the athleticism of the game just continues to do
going
this.
up and up.
So when you're going to watch a sport, people prefer the NFL or the NBA right now because they'd rather see the dude jumping over guys like Zion, who's doing that kind of stuff. That's just freak athlete stuff. We have a freak athlete too named Mike Trout, but he doesn't get the same.
That's who came to mind for me.
He doesn't get the same reverence. I mean, he gets paid a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not as recognized.
I was going to say that on top of amending the rules and the way the game is played, compared to, obviously there's many other sports, but the NFL and the NBA,
it's the big three
are
for us.
Probably those two are probably the most successful sports in America right now. They have to be.
Yeah, no,
NFL
it's without
has
a doubt.
To be, and
It's
it has to be
NFL.
the NBA,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and also the NBA just signed a billions upon $billion deal. Soccer across Europe, in Europe, is the biggest sport by far, of course. But I'm speaking just generally.
For the
just
sake of conversation, I'm going to compare to football and basketball.
Yeah,
and I think one thing that differentiates basketball and football is the star power of them.
Yeah.
And obviously baseball has its stars, and for the people that know the game, they have the stars. But like, I feel like in basketball and football, we end up with these mega stars that, like, their fame, like Steph Curry, like Durant, obviously LeBron,
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Patrick
TB12.
Odell.
They changed the name. It's basically Tampa Bay now. Yeah,
exactly, and that's beautiful. And you get so many of those like superstars that are incredible. They're the best athletes, but then they become celebrities in and of themselves, almost outside of their athletic performances.
Right.
And I think that's really cool. I think that helps fuel the game.
Oh yeah,
in a certain
for
way.
sure.
Like, it adds that element of swagger and all of that. And that is a little bit of what baseball is missing these days. Is I don't think, at least in recent years, you don't get as much of those like superstars that are because the way the game is, they don't get as many opportunities, for the epic touchdown catch or the amazing dunk. It's like, you got guys who hit home runs, but we've seen home runs, and then you get amazing catches, but the best outfielder in the world, like, they're not getting an opportunity to make that catch every inning.
They don't control the outcome of the game a lot of the time.
You're going to get one epic catch
or
epic play, like couple of epic plays a game,
maybe.
But when you go for 4 hours and you see 2 or 3 great plays, maybe.
Yeah,
that's tough. Whereas you go to a football game and every other play you're getting something crazy happening, and so you get these stars, the breakout players of the season. And in baseball, Mike Trout's a good example. Like a few years ago, Mike Trout really broke out. And it felt like a couple of minutes, people were like, whoa, baseball is pretty cool.
Yeah.
This guy's really good. And I feel like when you get a really exciting player, people get more excited to go to those games or watch it on TV because it's like, I need to see this guy play.
Right.
And when you don't have enough of that star power, it's hard. Like, why would I watch this game?
Right.
Because it doesn't impact the outcome of the season. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of factors with baseball.
There's
that
a
just
lot
make
of factors
it hard
with
to care
baseball
about.
that make it hard to follow, and like, because the other big one that I like to bring up to people, when even with peers and that kind of stuff, and but other big baseball fans are like, I just don't understand why people don't love the game. It's like, well, if you don't follow it and you don't fully understand it, the biggest, like, craziest game that you can attend is a game where basically nothing happens. It's a game where one team does not get a hit.
Yep.
So
the no-hitter.
So when you have a situation like that where your game is built around the fact where one team literally does not do half the game compared to other sports like basketball, where a big game is like a dude just dropped 50 points, had 10 rebounds and 10 assists.
You got to see
like
things happen.
Yeah,
not
you got to see something.
happen.
Yeah, the point of baseball is to make one team just not happen.
The no-hitter is the most ironic event in sports.
Yes, it is. It is the most exciting and also boring event.
Yeah.
To put that in perspective on how boring it is, even for people who are like purists, like, it is amazing at the end of the game. I worked for the Dodgers. When I was down there, we were beating, I think it was the Padres. I think is who he was pitching against. I think that's who it was. It was 8-0. And I left in the fifth inning. Or sixth inning. I left in the sixth inning. I was just like, I'm out. It's 8-0. I left. I get home and I turn on the TV and I look and I go, I didn't even notice Clayton Kershaw had a no-hitter going. He had a perfect game at that time.
What?
Had no clue. Did not pay attention. Like, it was just like, oh, great. This game's just kind of is what it is. It's 8-0. I'm done. He ends up finishing off the no-hitter.
He did do it?
Yes, he did.
Oh, it's that game.
I missed the last couple innings.
That's painful.
So
I would have thrown up if I were you.
Yes, I felt terrible.
Yeah, that's tough.
And at the end of the game, as I'm watching the last time, like, I could be there right now. I could be down like on the field. Actually, this would be sweet. But at the same time, when I was at that game, I was like, yeah, I've had enough of this.
I'm pretty bored.
It's 8-0. I'm out.
I'm bored. Is it just me, or has that team not done anything?
Yeah, they just aren't, like, this is just a butt whooping that I don't want to be a part of anymore. So I get it. I think that some rules need to change, and then that way baseball can become big and relevant again, because it seems like there are big contracts, but the sport is slowly losing a little bit of that flair
I feel
that
like
it had
the big
once
contracts doesn't help either, because that's just part of the perception. Like, the stigma against baseball right now is obviously, number one, that it's long and kind of boring. And number two, I think everybody sort of has that perception of it. It's like, oh, they're playing a game that so many people don't even care about, and they're just making these insane,
like Mike Trout's contract,
$20+ million a year contracts. And
Mike Trout signed a 10 or 12-year, $427 million deal,
and that just doesn't even make sense.
Fully guaranteed.
Doesn't even make sense.
To put that in perspective,
I respect his athleticism to no end.
Yeah.
I think he's amazing. I love seeing great athletes be rewarded for being great athletes. I think that's awesome. They deserve to be paid and recognized. But that number just doesn't make any sense.
It's so much money.
Where are you getting that number?
It's just, I guess it's one of those things where who does it go to? The owners or the players? And I guess I'd rather see it go to the players. So I've transitioned that way. I get that. But like, to put that number into perspective for, like, because baseball contracts all the time are fully guaranteed.
Right.
In a lot of cases, when you get to those big numbers, you can strive for a fully guaranteed contract. So say you sign a $100 million deal for 6 years or whatever, that money in a lot of cases is fully guaranteed. That is not how it works in most other sports. For instance, the big news came out that Patrick Mahomes just signed a deal it's a 12-year deal total worth $503 million.
I had not heard that. That's
$503 million. But people are like, well, he's now the highest paid athlete in North America because he beat Mike Trout's contract. Incorrect. That is not correct.
Guaranteed money.
It is loaded with incentives. So basically what a lot of people are thinking is, a lot of people think it's a team-friendly deal for Kansas City over the time, because they're thinking that it's going to total out to be more of a 6-year where he will get about $187 million over the course of 6 years, and then they'll restructure.
Okay.
But
interesting.
It's just a weird thing because Mike Trout's fully guaranteed. There's a no trade clause, and Patrick Mahomes got some of that stuff as well. But the deal is not as absurd as Mike Trout's is, because of that guaranteed money that comes into place.
Yeah.
So
Mike Trout's deal feels as if some people started talking like, "Hey, we gotta give this guy some money. How much should we give him?" I don't know.
All of it.
How much do we have?
Yeah, let's just give him all of it.
Just give him that much. Should we like make sure that he's gonna still be playing in a couple of years? Like, should we add some like stipulations or anything? Nah, I'd say just give it to him.
It's a weird thing though, because you look at the contract for him, and it's nuts because it's so much money. It's the biggest contract. I mean, guaranteed money wise and everything like that. He may be worth it in the long run if baseball continues to grow. It's a weird thing because he could go down. As of right now, if he continues on his current track, I will be safe in saying he will go down as the greatest baseball player to ever live, which is a weird thing to say in our time frame. But when you look at the athleticism, his hitting, and everything like that coming across, he's finished in no less than third place in the MVP voting every single year of his career, which is just broken. So it's one of those things where if he continues on his trajectory, he'd be in that conversation. So I get it, but point. Man, it is just a lot of money. And you're right. I think that turns off a lot of people because they're like, well, where the hell is this money even coming from? Like, it's just,
well, I feel like it's hard for the average consumer to respect something that doesn't make any sense to them and doesn't compute. I mean, that's how, God, we're talking about Trout's contract, but that's the same way I started feeling about baseball a little bit when A-Rod got his big deal back in whatever, 2006
his like $200 million deal or whatever he got over like 6 or 8 years. It was
like $240 million. And at the time it was
like worth like $30 million a year.
It was about 30 and it just felt insane. And I mean, obviously I'm a fan, so I kept watching, but even at the time, me as a big fan, I was in my head saying, this is really dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that,
much
the sport
money
is like, that's their default or like go to, that this is the way that the sport functions. Doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot. Yeah, I have other thoughts on all that, but that'll be for another time.
I do want to see baseball keep existing though. I have a feeling that there's no way it's just going to die.
No, not at all.
In the next year or two. Like, that's not possible. It's not just going to die.
No, that was just mostly a joke.
Well, honestly, how's this? To bring it full circle real quick, baseball sort of reminds me of movie theater experience, going to movie theaters where a lot of people really don't care about it. And for the last several years, people just keep talking about the death of baseball and the death of movie theaters. But people still want that, and they're not going to die. It's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
It's just going to be hard.
It's going to be different.
It's going to be different, and it has to evolve.
Yeah, things just have to change. So,
but it's not just going to die out because too many people still love the sport.
Yep, I agree. Well, anyways, coming up here on a nice, fairly long one, actually. You want to plug Handwritten Kin real quick one more time, and we'll get out of here?
I suppose so. I have a new clothing brand called Handwritten Kin, aimed toward artists and just anyone who likes creating things, regardless of the medium. And they're available at handwrittenkinventory.com.
That's not bad.
It's a little pun.
That ain't bad.
The blog, at least as of today, I still operate this blog that is handwrittenkin.com. And then the offshooting store is handwrittenkinventory.com. And you can find t-shirts and several stickers and a few other accessories. And yeah, I'm going to be making a push to market that a lot more here in the next few months and get that off the ground more.
Awesome.
But I'm excited about it. I'll get you a sticker before we leave.
Please do.
I have a sticker for you.
Yay, stickers.
Stickers.
And we will have all that in the description. So go ahead and check all that stuff out. Articles are fantastic. We'll also link the YouTube channel so you guys can go check out some of his stuff. He's got some music and stuff on there you guys can go check out.
Yeah. Follow the blog. Got some music coming. A few different projects. Follow Handwritten Kin on Instagram if you're into that sort of thing.
We'll get all that up on there.
Handwritten _Kin. on
Love it.
Instagram. Yeah,
All right.
that's
Perfect.
fantastic.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you in the next one.